this evening, it's all to do with, running your business on your own. And I hope to give you a few, ways. It's a lot of mindset stuff. Running a business is a lot of mindset stuff. I'm not necessarily this evening talking about, the nitty gritty of starting a baking business, registering and all that. There's plenty of that in the group. If you need to know all that, there's loads in the group. Ask in the group. I'm more than happy to help you with all that. This evening, it's really much more about, the mindset and the attitude that you have as a baking owner. That's really where we're going this evening. All right. So what I have done here, let me add my little, there he is. There, doesn't that look great? I was quite pleased with that. These are my professional photos. Needless to say, that's not actually my kitchen. Don't tell anyone. That was a shoot house, a photo shoot house that the photographer and I hired for the day. I'd love that to be my kitchen, but I haven't got anywhere as near as much room as that. So if any of you got small kitchens, it's absolutely possible, isn't it, to run a business on a small kitchen? But it was a beautiful place, and I had some lovely photos done, which was the aim of the day. Anyway, so there I am. Now, what I thought I'd do, as quite a few of you sort of know me, you've seen me in the group, you've seen me talk, but what I've not really ever done is sort of tell you my journey from, first starting a baking business to now. So I thought that's what I'd do first of all. Excuse me. And at the side of the slides this evening, I've put some photos on, and I'll sort of explain the photos as we go through. So a brief history of Annie, which will give you context for what I'm going to be talking about later, because I'll refer back to various things. Okay. So in 2014, I set up Leading Lady Cakes, which is my baking business. So named because I actually am a trained opera singer. Those of you that didn't know, I actually sung. In fact, we don't really meet anymore because lockdown sort of put paid to the group, unfortunately. But we were an opera group that for many years put on operas, charity and all that kind of stuff. And I used to sing, and I used to absolutely love it. So that's where the name of my business came from. And I traded mainly at farmers markets, got the odd birthday cake order, decided at that point that I really wanted to be a wedding cake maker. So I invested time and a little bit of money in getting the skills that I needed to do that. Through 2015, I did lots of market stalls, few birthdays and celebration cake orders. At that point, I was still teaching part-time. I was doing supply. So what was happening, I was doing teaching and supply Monday to Friday during the day. And then Thursday and Friday evenings, I'd be baking to then be at a market for Saturday and Sunday. So it was a bit of a graft, bit of a hard graft. Occasionally I'd have a weekend off when there wasn't a market. But I absolutely loved it. It was hard work, but I absolutely loved it. So I built up I was trying to build up the business. Had a few wedding cake orders, but various things happened in 2016. My children hadn't had a holiday. They were very good at not complaining about not having much, because at that point there wasn't a great deal of money coming in. And I was offered by a supply agency a full-time job, and I was a bit do I, don't I, but I took it. So in 2016 the business took a back seat, and the teaching took priority for a bit. Various things happened that I won't go into, but 2019 I made the decision to actually leave teaching. I realized that actually it's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to run my business. I wanted to build my business. So I left full-time. I went back to supply teaching and concentrated on getting wedding cake orders, but because by that point I'd got most of the skills. I'd been practicing all the way along, and I'd got most of the skills I needed to actually, create wedding cakes. So I was building up, orders and bookings and things like that. And then in 2020, we all know what happened in 2020. March 2020, I remember it vividly. We remember all the important things, don't we? I remember sitting at my dining room table downstairs. I didn't have this office at that point. This was one of my daughter's bedrooms. I was sitting at my dining table downstairs and I was watching the news, and Prime Minister came on and said, we're all going into lockdown. All the schools are shutting. And at that point, all of my potential income disappeared. What in 30 minutes, everything had gone. I'd had wedding cakes booked. No weddings were happening. I was a supply teacher. Schools were shut. No supply. Luckily, the agency that I was with got me in touch with a school that actually needed a full, a teacher rather than a supply teacher, because they had a teacher that was leaving. So I was able to do some part-time online stuff. So I had something coming in, but obviously it was nowhere near what I needed at that time. Luckily, I had been on universal credit as well, so I had that coming in. But even so, it was a pretty frantic time, as I'm sure it was for a lot of you. But things sort of happened in 2020 because I joined various groups. I was in a wedding industry group, and it was through that sort of snowballed into joining other business groups. And that led to me setting up sort of where we are now. I set up Annie Bennett Business, which is all to do with helping home bakers starting up a home baking business. And from that came the Facebook group that we're in, came the membership that some of you are in, eventually came the books, came the training courses. All those things came from that. And that was the need to have an income. So I had to sort of think around what I knew. And that's when that was created. And if we sort of come through to now, 2022, we're talking full diary of wedding bookings. We've got, the Facebook group. We're getting on to 8,000 members actually now, 7.7, 7.8-ish. I'm a best-selling author. The book, there it is. There's my handbook. Some of you got that one. That was the first one I did. That was number one in its category. And I haven't got one here. The food hygiene record book, that's probably my most popular. I think quite a few of you got that one. And then the order book and various other things. Once I'd started on self-publishing on Amazon, it was a bit addictive. And I was like, I need to do another one. So I've got quite a few up there, which I know that some of you have bought. So thank you so much for that. It's been brilliant. Sam, I left my 20-year career in mid-2019. Officially started business, yeah. It's a great feeling, isn't it? Knowing that you can actually go and do it and that you've done it. It's an amazing feeling. So that's the sort of timeline, which I will refer back to as we go through. Now, if you look at the pictures there, these two here, hang on, if I move that, I can use my cursor. These two here were sort of 2015, 2016 wedding cakes. And the flowers at the bottom were some flowers that I made a few months ago for one of my latest cakes. So that's what I sort of almost a timeline, if you like, of what I was doing. But it took me quite a while to get to this stage here. Although I remember that the flowers on here, this was before really I'd learned how to do sugar flowers properly. And those roses were actually just made of cake covering fondant. And they took ages to dry, and it was really frustrating because I hadn't had the tuition to do it properly. But steep learning curve with those. So that is a sort of a very potted history of Annie and Annie Bennett Business. But what I'm going to go into now is my 5 tips for running your business. Okay. And this is what I've picked up through all these years. Okay. So first one, and a lot of this isn't anything new. If you've been listening to me over the last couple of years and come to my lives and read my blog and things like that, a lot of this will resonate because I will have you will have heard me say a lot of this before, but it's all together in sort of one package this evening. So the first thing I would say is that you need a plan. Now, when I say you need a plan, I'm not just saying, a to-do list. Tomorrow I've got to go to the shops, I've got to make a sponge, and then I've got to do this. That's a to-do list. That's not a plan. By plan, I mean, where do you want to be in 5 years' time or 10 years' time? What's your overall aim? Where do you want to end up? What's your big goal? Okay. It might be, some of you, that you want to open a premises, you want to open a shop, you want to open a cafe, you want to have a commercial premises where you create beautiful wedding cakes. It might be that you want to have a big delivery business, making your brownies or your cookies and sending out to, to hundreds of people nationally. Whatever it is. Okay, so that will be your overall aim. And then your plan is, how are you going to get there? So if, where are you going to be in 5 years' time? So what are the steps? So by the end of year 1, what are you going to need to have done? By the end of year 2, what are you going to need to have done? And how are you going to get there? Okay. Now, it might not be anything as massive as, opening a shop or whatever. It might just be, I want to be the person that is known for brownie deliveries. I want to be the name that everyone thinks of when they think of brownie deliveries. Like when you think of those companies that do meals, you've got Gusto, you've got Hello Fresh. There was another one. But those are the two that immediately come to mind. Perhaps you want to be the equivalent for brownies or cookies or whatever it is you do. And there's absolutely no reason why you couldn't be, even if you're just working on your own. There's no reason why you couldn't be. And it's all to do with strategy. It's all to do with plotting it out. And you've got to know the different parts of the business that will help you get there. So you're talking marketing, social media, you're talking PR, you're talking about financial, investing your profits, you're talking about branding, you're talking about sales, all those things. Now, if this all seems overwhelming and you think, oh my goodness me, I can't cope with all of that, that's exactly what I thought when I first started my business. I thought, there's no way I can deal with all that. I'll just sort of put it to one side. But you'll see as I go through this evening how it is very possible for you to do this on your own. Okay, so bear with me. So you plot it out. So you give yourself targets. So for example, if you've got a social media target that in 5 years' time you're going to have 50,000 followers, perfectly possible. Where do you need to get to by the end of year 1? 5,000? 10,000? It might be that you have a big splurge to start with, and then, so, and how are you going to get there? What are you going to actually do? Sitting and hoping and praying, not a strategy. What are you actually going to proactively do? Are you going to go into you're going to up the quality of your reels, for example? Are you going to go in and engage with so many accounts a day or a week? It's all those kind of things that will help with that. But it's got to be a strategy. I'm going to do so much a day, or I'm going to do so much a week. And that's how you build that. Okay. And as I've just said, if all this overwhelms you and you think, oh, there's no way I can do all this, then the key, and I'll talk about this in a little bit as well, is to connect with people, to network with people that can help you, people that can point you in the right direction, which is what I did. When I first started leading Lady Cakes in 2014, I didn't have a Scooby, not a flipping Scooby about business. No one in my family owned a business. None of my friends owned a business, certainly not a baking business. So I was really just sort of trying something out and seeing if it worked. And, it was all a bit of potluck. But it wasn't until 2020 that I started being amongst other business people that I started realizing things that I didn't know. If you start something new, you don't know what you don't know, do you? Does that make sense? You know what I mean? So, get with people, get with more experienced people, and they will pull you up. Yeah. So first of all, have a plan, know where you're going, and have some kind of an idea of how you're going to get there. We'll come on to that a little bit more in a minute. Now, secondly, number 2 and number 3 are very similar, but there's a subtle difference between the two. Number 2, and I talk about this a lot, get confident. Now, if you look at those pictures there, I found these. In fact, I found the top one in amongst this one here, in amongst all my past photos. That is about 9 years old, 10 years old. That was my first attempt at making sugar roses. I mean, not bad for a first attempt, actually. You know, they look fairly rose-like. And I remember putting them on Facebook and everyone going, "Oh, Annie, those are wonderful." And I was really proud that I'd done them. But below is the rose that I made last week. And that is as a result of investing in tuition to get myself that there, and practicing and learning and soaking things up and seeing how other people do it and so on and so forth. So I've gone from my little yellow roses there to something that I'm fairly confident looks moderately lifelike at the bottom there. So we're talking about confidence here. I talk about confidence a lot because I think it's really important. Confidence is often mistaken for arrogance. And there's a really big difference between the two. I can't bear arrogance. In and out of business, if someone's arrogant, it really makes my flesh crawl, and I really distance myself from arrogant people. My definition of confidence is that you know what your strengths are, but you also are aware of what your weaknesses are. You're aware of what it is you need to do to get better at things. Okay. So I know that I'm fairly good at, you know, various aspects of my business. You know, I can produce cakes, I can produce roses, I can do this, that, and the other. But I know that there are other things not so good at. And when it matters, I think, oh, I better learn how to do that a bit better, and I will find out how to get better at it. Okay. So having confidence is saying, yes, I know about this. Not so sure about that. Can you tell me a bit more about that? Yeah. Whereas arrogance, of course, is thinking that you know everything, and you can't run a business thinking that you know everything. Absolutely not. And I always, I have a bit of a problem with the word talent. I've got a bit of a thing in my bee in my bonnet about the word talent. In fact, I've written an article for Metro, which hopefully will be published in a couple of weeks, about this very subject, about the fact that I think talent is a very misleading word. When you hear someone say, you know, you look at a cake or something, perhaps on in a Facebook group, and someone says, "Oh, you're very talented to make that." Your brain says, "Oh, I need to have the talent gene to be able to do that. I haven't got that talent gene, so therefore I'm not going to be able to do that." That's what your brain is telling you. Okay, because if you believe that you're built with talent and you can only be spectacular because you've got this inbuilt thing that you were born with, then that means that you can never be any good at anything else unless you're born with it. And I think that's cobblers. I think that's rubbish. I think if you replace the word talent with skill, so you are very skilled at that, that then assumes, actually, I could be skilled at that too, because if I learn how to do it, if I find out about it, if I practice it, I can achieve that too. You see the subtle difference, and it's what your brain is telling you. So to say, "Oh, you're very talented, I couldn't possibly do that," your brain is building a brick wall. Whereas if you say, "Oh, that's a real skill you've got there," the next question is, how did you get that skill? What did you do? Where did you go to learn? Yeah. And it changes your mindset into something more positive, into a can do rather than a can't do. And the confidence goes with, when you have something goes a bit wrong in your business. So you might get a complaint or you might get a bad review. I'll tell you something about a bad review in a minute. But you get a complaint. Now, if you're a confident baker, you can use your head rather than your heart, and you can step back and you can say, I can look objectively at this complaint and I can see whether it's got any worth in it. Yeah. Is what they're saying true? Does my head say, actually, yeah, they might be a bit right there. I might not have sussed that bit of it, or I might not have got that completely right. Or are you thinking, actually, no, that's not right at all. I know the quality of my cakes. I know that that's not right. Okay, so you see the difference. So be analytical and be strategic. Look at what they're saying. Is it right? And say with your head, not your heart. Because as a business owner, you've got to use your head far more than you use your heart. I'm not to say you shouldn't use your heart at all. That's not right at all. But in this sense, you've got to be able to be logical and analytical about it. So if you think, oh, there is an element of truth in this, perhaps they are right. And you do produce a cake that you think, oh, I'm really not happy with that. There's a couple of ways you could deal with this. You could sort of curl up in a ball and cry and think, I'm useless at this, I'll never do it again. Or you can look at the cake and say, what exactly is it that's not right about this? What is it that I've got to do better next time? And pinpoint, this is where you get strategic, because you pinpoint something that you can go away and practice, go away and learn about. And then next time when you do something similar, it'll be 10 times better. So, for example, I know when I first started baking, I couldn't get smooth buttercream. I couldn't get that sort of crisp look that you see on all these photos, with the crisp edge. Not a clue. So I went away and found out how to do it. And now I can do a crisp edge. Perfect. So say be strategic. If you think that you're not up to a standard of something, pinpoint one thing, think, right, I'm going to learn how to do a sharp edge. Go and get your diary, find out, block out some times in your diary. Right, on this day, I'm going to find some videos to watch. On this day, I'm going to, put a question in the Facebook group and see if anyone can help me. I'm going to find a training course to go and help me with it. And that's what being strategic means. It means setting out a plan to help you improve what you're doing. Yeah. And if you're at the stage where you're not confident with your experience and you think, I've got no idea what's wrong with this cake. I know it's not right, but I've got no idea. That's when you make your connections and you go to someone whose experience you trust and whose opinion you trust. And you say, help me with this. Tell me one thing that I need to do to make this better. Okay. And in our big Facebook group, and in fact, in the society as well, that can be done quite easily, and people will advise you. I wouldn't suggest that you ask someone at home, friends and family that aren't bakers, because the chances are they'll say things to try and make you happy. They'll say things to put you in a good mood, and they won't be constructive. You need someone who knows baking to help you with that. Okay. Now, the next one is very similar. Now, this you might think, what's she talking about? Get independent. By the way, the pictures here, the top one there, that was about 9 years ago. And this was before I'd learned how to make sugar flowers. And that was some flour cutouts that I had, different sizes. So I cut out the different sizes, put them together and put those little silver balls in the middle. And that there is the sort of drapes there. Can you see that? The sort of drapes. And the bottom cake there is one that I did during the summer. There's a blue rose, there's silver drapes, there's filler flowers. So, going from one to the other. So it's how I've sort of progressed and learned over the years. I don't think in the bottom photo. The bride was really pleased with it, by the way, but I think my silver drape wasn't as good, and I'm going to work on making a more effective silver grape drape next time. But that was just me, picking up what I think I need to improve on. But get independent. What do I mean by get independent? And this follows on from getting your confidence. And I have talked about this a little bit before, but what I mean by getting independent is knowing the quality of your work without having to have anyone else decide it for you or to confirm it. So you can make your cake and you can think, yes, I'm pleased with that. I've got that right. I've got that right. That is, much improved on my last one. I'm happy with that. Okay. If you can't decide whether it's good or not until your partner, your children, your mum, your uncle, your whoever has made a decision on it for you, then you're really not going to get anywhere, to be honest. Tough love, bit of Annie tough love going on here. All of those people, most of them aren't going to be bakers. Most of them aren't going to be decorators. Yeah, they might be people that buy cakes, but they're not going to be your ideal customer. They're not, they're not going to be the people that you're aiming your cakes at. You've got to know the standard of what you're giving to your customers. Okay. Let me tell you a little bit about reviews. I said I was going to tell you the story. A couple of weeks ago, I had a notification from the wedding directory that I'm a member of. And it said, you've got a review. So I thought, oh, great. Okay. So go in and I have a look. And it's dismal, this review. 1 star. Everything awful you could say about a cake, they said about a cake. They said that I ignored their messages. I didn't get back to them. I was very unprofessional and they'd never recommend me. Now, on reading this review, my first thought wasn't actually, oh my God, this is awful. My first thought was actually, what are they talking about? This is cobblers. This is not anything to do with any cake or my service at all. Because I knew that all the cakes that I've produced, particularly over the last year or 2 years, have been of a standard. And I know that, I'm confident with my ability that I know I wouldn't ever send out a cake that was below standard. So when they were talking about, underdone and greasy or whatever it was they were describing it as, I thought, this is very odd. So I had a bit of a closer look at this review. And it had a little bit that said date of wedding. Now, it just so happened that the date that they'd put as the date of their wedding, I'd not done a wedding that date. So I thought, well, it couldn't be me. Okay. So I contacted my account manager in that directory and I said, I think I've got a bit of a rogue review here. Any chance you could get in contact with them, or can you remove it? I said, because it's not true. I said, if you need any proof, can you contact them and ask them for proof that we've had a transaction? I said, because I keep all my invoices, I keep all my, records and receipts and all that. And she said, no problem. She said, it does look a bit fishy, this, it must be said. And she contacted the person who had left the review, and she came back to me almost immediately and said, he tells me that he hasn't got any proof because you did it all by text. You did all your transactions by text, so he hasn't got any proof. He or she, whoever it was, hasn't got any proof. And she said, she said, that's not right. She said, I know you do invoices and receipts and all that kind of stuff. She said, don't worry, I've removed it. It's gone. And part of his message to her was, I don't think that reviews should be verified. And if you're going to remove this, then just remove me from your site completely. Okay. So that was gone. That review was gone. But it was because I knew my standards. I knew what I'm capable of producing. I know that everybody that I produce cake for loves what I do, and I get good reviews, so on and so forth. So this stood out like an absolute sore thumb. I have a feeling I know where it came from, but I won't go into that now. But it was dealt with. Bit inconvenient, bit of a pain. I've got to, contact my account manager now, but it was dealt with. Perhaps 10 years ago, or when I started my business, if that had happened, I might well have, curled up on the sofa crying, saying, I'm never going to make another cake again. That's it, I'm done. But because I know what I'm capable of, I knew it was rubbish. So there we go. So, and that's another lesson actually in making sure you've got a really good paper trail, making sure you've got, email communication, you've got invoices, you've got receipts and all sorts. So if these things do crop up, you can say, well, where's the proof? Where's the proof that I made a cake for you? So there we go. So I have an independent, I don't need anybody. It's nice when they do, don't get me wrong. If people say, oh, that's a fabulous cake, I say, oh, thank you very much. That's nice that you appreciate it. But I don't need to rely on it. It doesn't make or break me as a baker and as a business, And I also now have the attitude, I didn't used to, I used to have the attitude of, looking at some of these creations that you see online, like a Cake International, for example. You see some of the things that they produce. And sometimes it's, wow, I could never do that. That's the instinctive reaction, isn't it? I could never do that. But now I look at something, there's been a couple recently, actually, because Cake International's next week, isn't it? And there's been a few teasers of what people are making. And my first thought is, wow, that's incredible. But it's not, I could never do that. My thought is, how would I do that? What would I need to know to be able to do that? What would I need to learn about to be able to do that? There's one, Zoe's Fancy Cakes. I saw hers, was it this morning or yesterday? She's done a big, is it a reindeer? And it's incredible. It's a huge thing. And of course, a lot of that structure is, metal, bolting together metal bits that she then puts the cake on. Well, I don't know anything about bolting together metal bits. So if I ever wanted to do a cake of that size, I'd have to learn about bolting together metal bits. Not that I ever could, because my little house, I'd never have room. So, I'd need a warehouse or whatever. No, it's not real cake. It wouldn't be, would it? Because it would be fairly moldy by the time it got there. But the skills that she has, I think, oh, how has she got that effect with the, with the fur or with the leather or whatever it is? And I don't think I could never do that. And get your brain into that mindset of, how is that done? How have they done that? Because if you can be a bit curious and try and learn how they've done it, sometimes they do tutorials on it or do a how, showing you how things are made. Soak those up, because you can pick up so much from those things, the ways that they do things, the way that, they airbrush, or that they mold things, or that they color things. You can pick up so much from those. So yeah, get independent, get to know your own skill without relying on other people to tell you you're fabulous. Tell yourself you're fabulous. I mean, I'll tell you you're fabulous if you like. I'm happy to do that. But unless you believe it yourself, it's pointless. You've got to believe that. You've got to believe your skills. Okay. So that's get independent. The next one, we've sort of touched on this as well, is learn. I can't stress this enough, that you've got to be open to learning. And we're not just talking baking skills here. We're talking business skills. Now, the pictures here, the top one is the little doodad I made when I did my PME sugar paste course. If any of you have done a PME sugar paste course, you'll probably recognize this, because I think everyone has to do this. It's, the palm leaves and the little lion and the elephant, and you go through and they teach you how to make it. And the bottom one there was as a result of the royal icing course that I did. And looking at it now, it really annoys me because you can see on the right hand side, it droops down. You see, doing that now, I'd never allow that to happen because I'd measure it and I'd put pin marks in to make sure it's straight. So, but it was, you know, I'd learnt it and I've had to practice it. And so that's where I am now. But you've got to get business skills as well. That may sound a bit obvious, isn't it, as a business, that to get business skills. When I first started my business, as I've said already, I didn't have any business skills at all. I didn't even know what I didn't know. I had to learn how a business worked. I had to learn all the different aspects of it. And I did that, as I've said before, I've mentioned this already, in 2020. You know, I went into these groups. It started off wedding industry groups, but then it grew to others. And I worked with other business owners who have specialisms in all sorts of things. And I took opportunities all over the place. You know, someone's doing a free session on using Canva, or a free session on using Instagram, or whatever it is. And I did as many as I could, you know, as many as I was able to. I just went and did them all, and I soaked it all up. And I learned so much, and there were so many revelations, light bulb moments. You know, like, for example, okay, here's a question. How many of you know, can you put in the comments, do you know what a CTA is? Who knows what a CTA is? Pop it in the comments if you know what a CTA is. We'll see if someone knows what that is. But I didn't have a clue what a CTA. I will tell you in a minute if no one knows. But I didn't have a clue what that was. No idea at all. Yes, call to action. Call to action. Well done. But when I first started business and I was going to all these groups, oh, it's a craft trainer award as well. Oh, Leslie, you see, it's a different. I was going to all these business groups and they kept talking about CTAs. And I'm like, I don't know what a CTA is. And I didn't have the confidence to go, excuse me, what's a CTA? Clueless teaching assistant. I didn't meet many of them, Sam. I must admit, I didn't meet many of them. But yeah. Brilliant. But eventually I got the confidence to actually ask what these things were they were talking about. To start with, I felt like that, you know, the new kid in school who sort of sat there meekly and everyone else seemed to know what they were doing and I didn't. Whereas, you know, as it went along, I was like, well, unless I ask, I'm not going to find out, and I need to ask. So I'd say, you know, what's the CTA? What do you mean by ideal client? What do you mean by increasing engagement? All these things. And I soaked it all up. Okay. And I've got so many contacts now that know all sorts of things. Generally, if I come across an issue in my business, or if someone in my society has a problem with something, and I don't know how to solve it, I'll generally know someone who does. A couple of weeks ago, before I went on holiday, some of you know I went to Greece for a week, which was just splendid. But 2 days before I went to Greece, my website, where if any of you bought a course from me, and my membership as well, it all runs through my website, and it's all done through a system, and it's all automatic. So when payments are taken, it's all automatic. Well, my website decided to lose all of that system. And so I was left there with none of anyone that's ever bought anything from me, none of your contact details, none of your addresses. No one could have accessed anything because all that system had disappeared. And I had not a clue where to go about it. So I sat where I am sat now, looking at my computer, open mouth. I didn't know where to start. And I have to admit, I did shed a bit of a tear because I was due to go on holiday in a couple of days. And I thought, it might be that I can't go, you know, I might need to stay and sort it. Anyway, so I went into one of my network groups online on Facebook, And I said, can someone help me, please? This has all gone wrong, And a few people said, oh, try this, try that. But one person who actually was someone that the society, she came into society a few months ago, Kat, to talk about websites and SEO. She came on, she said, oh, yeah, don't worry, we'll sort it. And she messaged me and said, can you just give me this and that? And 5 minutes later, it was all up and running again. Oh, my goodness me, the relief was unbelievable. And that was all because I'd chatted with her online in the group. She'd come in to do some training for the society. We'd had a bit of a chat. In fact, we realized that we actually grew up in the same town as well. So we had all sorts of connections. But she just sort of, yeah, I'll help you with that. No problem. There you go. Bish, bash, bosh. That's all sorted. Back to where it was. So learning and being open to learning and being open to asking if you don't know. So it comes back to the confidence thing, doesn't it? I'm sure you've all been in a situation where perhaps at school, or I don't know, you've gone to an evening class or whatever it is, and you thought everyone else knows and I don't want to ask because I'm going to look silly. But you have to, get your big girl pants on or your big boy pants on, and you have to say, right, I need to know this to be able to grow. So I'm just going to ask it. Doesn't matter if anyone thinks it's silly. The chances are that there are half a dozen people around you that are thinking exactly the same thing, and you're just the one that's brave enough to ask. It could be that. So there we go. So learn and learn about business and find out about business things to help as well. I'm waffling a bit now, but you know what I mean. And then, the fifth one is connect. And I've talked about this. I talked about it just now. The power of connecting and networking is really, really, really important. Sam says, I sign up for too many courses, though. I've got to. This is where you've got to be strategic. You've got to know what it is exactly that you need in that moment. Because I was the same, particularly during lockdown. You just sign up for everything that's going, but things that you need will sort of come to the surface, if you like, and you'll realize what's priority. But it was the connecting that really changed, and it changed my baking business, even though it was 2020 where I set up, all this and Annie Bennett business. All of that really fed into my wedding cake business as well. And I took a lot of what I was learning into that business, how to connect with other people, how to market, how to advertise, how to engage on social media, all those kind of things, how to be strategic with things, PR, using Canva, things like that. All that was through connections and through making connections with other people. Now, I know in our Facebook group, we have lots of connections going on, which is brilliant. And I love it. I love it when people, help each other. Where are we? Hang on, I'm looking at my notes here, making sure I'm where I am. Yes. And it's all to do with not just taking, obviously, but it's also giving. And so many people that give in our group. It's just wonderful. Someone puts up a question or a problem, there's, a whole ton of people that will pile in and give advice and offer help and things, which is great. And even if you're sort of new and inexperienced, the way that you can give back is just by being supportive. When I was first in these business groups, I didn't really have anything, any experience to offer. But I'd go in and, if someone had a problem, I'd sort of just say, oh, I'm really sorry about that. That's a real, and just sympathize if they had a problem. So I can't help, but, I feel your pain kind of thing. Just to know, because that helps, doesn't it? Sometimes if you've got a problem and someone just says, oh, I get that too. You feel as if the weight is shared almost, don't you? You're not in there on your own, if you like. So So the power of connections. Now, what I'm going to tell you about now is something that I'm really, really excited about, because it's something that I'm setting up that's new to support home bakers, home baking businesses. Most of you know, or some of you know, and some of you are watching from my Home Baking Professional Society, which is a paid membership. I'll tell you a bit more about that in a minute, actually. But what I'm going to tell you about now is something called HBP Connect that I am setting up. And it's a way for bakers, particularly home baking business owners, who don't necessarily have to have a business, but it's aimed at people that do, to sort of connect and support one another. Now, what I decided when I was thinking about things over the past couple of months, and all this came from the fact that some of you know that I've had a bereavement recently. And part of me thought, when I knew this was coming, because it was an illness, and I knew that this was going to happen, and I thought, oh my goodness me, what if this happens when I've got a cake to do? Or what if this happens when something important, you know, I've got to create something for a customer? And that sort of led me on to think, well, you know, what happens if I'm ever ill, or if one of my daughters ends up in hospital for some reason, God forbid. And it really got me thinking, you know, as a home baking business, when we're on our own, sometimes we can be quite vulnerable, can't we? Because we take these bookings, and I know in the group sometimes people have said, oh, help, you know, my daughter's ill, I can't fulfill this booking, what do I do? So this HBP Connect really is a result of me realizing that so many of us need some sort of, it's sort of like an insurance, really, it's a backup. So the idea is that the Connect members, first of all, you set up a directory. So you have a page. Hang on, oh, let's read that. What if I get, yeah, exactly. What if you get COVID and you can't fulfill an order? Yeah, it'd be awful, wouldn't it? Because none of us want to let our customers down. That's the last thing we want to do. So with HBP Connect, what you do is, and I got a tech expert. I haven't done the tech of this myself because I didn't know where to start with it. So I got someone in to do it for me, Rachel. She's brilliant. You go into the directory and you set up your details. So you put your name in, you put whereabouts you are in the country. So you know, East Sussex for me, Hailsham. If you just want to put your county, that's fine. If you want to put more details, you're fine. You know, it's up to you how much you put in there. Put what your speciality is. So on mine, it's mainly wedding cakes, sugar flowers, you know, blah, blah, blah. And you can, there's a little tick box where you can tick that you do cakes, you do brownies, you do cookies, whatever it is you do. And you can put as many contact details as you feel comfortable with. But the other side of it, so we have the directory. So when you go into the directory, when we get more members, you'll be able to look up, I want some advice from people that make brownies. So you click on the brownies and you'll find all the people that make brownies. What we're also going to have, rather than a Facebook group, I really wanted something that wasn't a Facebook group, because you're really dependent on the algorithms there. And if Facebook goes down, you've had it. We've all experienced that a couple of times. So I wanted something different. So I've discovered something called Slack. It's a really weird name, but it's a Slack channel, and it's an app. It's a messaging app, sort of on the lines of WhatsApp, but a lot more secure, and can be more specific. So on the Slack channel, we have a general group where you can put in and talk to everybody. But as we get more members, we'll be able to put, you know, like an East Sussex group, or a you know, a Scotland group, or Midlothian group, or Norfolk group. And so you'll be able to really get to know people that are in your area, so that if you do have an emergency, you have a bank of people to call on in your area. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, oh my goodness me, what if you're fulfilling an order and it gets to 10 o'clock at night and you've been just run off your feet. You get to 10 o'clock at night and you think, oh my goodness me, I haven't got the right cake board for this cake. And they're collecting at 12 tomorrow. And the shops are shut and I need to do this, that and the other and blah, blah, blah. Quick message to your group. Anyone got an 8-inch square cake board or whatever it is? Yeah. And you'll have people say not reliant on the Facebook algorithm, because I know some people do put in the Facebook group, but say sometimes the algorithm is such that messages don't get seen, do they? I put things in sometimes and I go back an hour later and it says 10 people have seen this. And I think, oh, that's brilliant. Thanks, Facebook, Whereas the app, the channel, the Slack channel, you'll be able to, reach people directly. In the Slack channel, you can set the notifications to how you want. So if you want to be notified when there are people in need of help, you can set them. You can set it to silent. You can, there's ways you can set it up to, to your convenience. Yeah, 3 days later, you get a notification on Facebook, don't you? It's just bonkers at the moment. So when you sign up, you do your directory. Then you go to the link on the page. So you sign up and you'll get emailed the page, the HBB page. And on there, you'll see the Slack channel link. You go to the Slack channel link, but underneath it, what I've done is I've done a video showing you exactly how to get all this set up. Because when I first used Slack, oh gosh, when was it? The beginning of this year, I was invited to use it by another group. And I thought, oh, I've never used Slack before, no idea. But someone had put a video saying, don't worry, you do this, click that, go there, go to your emails, verify it, and you're in. So I've done a video showing you how it all works. But of course, if you have a problem, you can just message me or email me or whatever, and I'll sort you out. So that is what it's all about. The Slack channel is really safe because it doesn't, like what WhatsApp involves phone numbers. This doesn't involve phone numbers. You get in via an email invite, and once you're in, you choose what information is shown on there. So it's as safe as you can just have your name if you like. And it occurred to me that it might be that you want to have a chat about something or ask some advice, or it might just be that like I am sometimes, my daughters are out, I'm sitting on my own, I'm watching perhaps Bake Off, and I'd love to have someone to chat about, I wouldn't do it that way, would you? And it'd be lovely to have some fellow bakers to chat with and message. It would be great, wouldn't it? Something you can't quite do on Facebook because, say, the algorithm is such that you'd get a message 10 hours later when the program's over, so it's hopeless. So that is what HBP Connect is all about. So connect directly with other bakers without having to rely on social media, have local backup and support, particularly in an emergency, a supportive community. Now, you're all in the Home Baking Business Community UK. It's a really supportive community. I make sure of that. There have people that have come and gone in the past who haven't been supportive, and I get rid of them, in a word. I won't allow people to come in and be nasty or disruptive or whatever it is. So it will be a safe environment. It will be a friendly environment. You can get, honest and constructive feedback on things. So what I was saying earlier about, find a trusted business friend to help you, pick out what it is you need to improve on something, for example. And as I was thinking more about it, I was thinking, oh, perhaps it might actually lead to actual in-person meetups. It might be that, oh, let's all go out for lunch, or let's all go out for a drink or for a coffee or whatever. And it might be that we get to the stage where we can actually meet up in person as well, which would be just fabulous, wouldn't it? Because I don't know about you, but sometimes I'm so busy on my own in here that actually getting out and meeting real people is quite a thrill. So that's what it's all about. There is a very small fee, and it's very small. I've kept it really, really low because I wanted it to be as accessible as possible. It works out about £3 a week. It's £12 a month. And it will be at that price for a couple of weeks. So if you sign up before the 10th of November, you'll get the £12 level. Okay. Which, as I say, it's £3 a week. Everyone can make £3 a week from your bakes. And if you can't, then being part of the membership will help you do that. So, and that's, if you want to sign up, it's there. There's also a post actually now in the group. I scheduled it for 8 o'clock, I think. So the link should be on there as well. So that's the HPP Connect. There's also, for those of you that don't know about the society, so the full society, let me just tell you a little bit about that. So if you join the full society, you get the Connect, you get that, but you also get, we do have a Facebook group for the society for, various things. And I put, training links and things in there. But there's a whole library of video trainings. So the society's been going for over 2 years now. And in that time, I've done sessions and I've had people come in, experts on various things doing sessions. So there's all sorts of training in there for different aspects of business. And there's all sorts of templates and downloads that you can use and adapt. You can, download a document and then put in the Facebook group. Can someone help me with the wording of this? We're there. Live sessions via Zoom. And the next one that I'm going to do, I postponed it because I was going to do it this week, but I'm going to do it on the 7th of November. For just as example, I'm going to be doing a session on how to self-publish on Amazon. So if any of you have an idea that you want to produce a book, a recipe book or a journal or something connected with your baking to make a bit more money, I will show you how to do that. And that one is a little bit more, obviously, because there's a bit more involved with that. That works out at about £5 a week. That's £20 a month. Betty, that is an excellent question. Do you have to be subscribed for a set time, or can you pay monthly and cancel when you need to? Yes, you can cancel when you need to. So you can sign up, and if you feel that it's not for you, you can there's ways of cancelling. You can either let me know, or you can do it within the website. Either way. But no, you're not committed to a certain amount of time. You can go in, try it out, see how it feels, and then come out if it's not for you. But I'm hoping, particularly with the Connect, that a lot of you think, actually, this is brilliant. This is just what we need at this particular time. We are going into a difficult time, aren't we? Sort of nationally, with finances and all this kind of stuff. So to have an extra bit of support, an extra bit of oomph with your business, I think you'll find that, the money that I've invested on support and invested in, paying for various memberships really has been worth it. I couldn't be where I am without having done so. So just a little bit of investment, you will, be spot on there. So there we are. So that, gosh, that is over an hour's worth. I will let you go in a minute, my lovelies. If anyone's got any, right, if you want to join the society, if you go to here or find the link on the Facebook page in the group, go to the Facebook page and scroll down a bit, and you'll have a I want to join up, and that's for the Connect. If you want to join the full society, just look down a bit and it'll say, I want to join the whole society. But actually, even on the payment page, there's a link that says, I'd rather join the whole society, and you can click on that and join the society from there. If anything's not clear, because obviously I've not tried it out, this is all sort of new this evening. If anything, oh, thank you, Betty, that's very kind of you. If anything's not clear or you want to know more about it, email me, message me, pop a message, a comment in the group, and I will answer and sort you out. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you found this evening useful. So my aim is always to be helping people to set up businesses. Oh, good. Oh, I'm glad you think it's a good idea. I think it's a brilliant idea. When I first realized that I might have a dilemma, I did look online to see if there was anything similar, and there isn't another membership like this. So I thought, I'll set one up. Being the kind of proactive person that I am. Yes, thank you very much, Betty. That was very kind of you to do that. So have a go. If it should all work, fingers crossed. If anything doesn't work, let me know and I will put it right. And if you've got any questions, just let me know. But thank you so much for joining me. It's been lovely having you with me this evening, listening to all my wafflings. But I hope it's been useful for you. So I've learned so much, as you can tell. I've learned so much, particularly over the last 2 years in business. And if I can pass that on to help you to grow your businesses, even better. It's my work is done. So any questions, let me know. I'd love to see some of you in there. Hopefully it'll build as people join, so the chats will get more full and more interesting. I will be live next Wednesday, but I can't for the life of me think what it was I was going to talk about, but we'll come to that at another point. But yeah, I'll see you in the group, and I'll hopefully see you in the membership as well. So take care, everybody, and have a lovely week, and I'll see you soon. All right, bye.